Ricardo, in this offseason, more business deals to come. We're going to be talking about the quarterback class that's going to be coming in, 2023 prospects, specifically in the quarterback position. Right? Of course, we need to talk about some of these guys because last year, as we already said, the quarterback class left a lot to be desired. This season, however, it's looking like a solid stacked draft class. Now, we need to talk about both the prospects who bring positive upside, as well as one prospect in particular that's getting a lot of attention that's probably going to bring some negative upside, or that some downside rather. So let's go ahead and dive right on in, Ricardo, if you don't have anything else to add to this little intro that we got going on here.
No, let's do it, man.
All right, let's do it right away. I'm Jose.
And I'm Ricardo.
Welcome back to RJ Talks, everyone. Ricardo, this is the big name that has been mentioned for pretty much the past couple of years at this point in time, right? This young man, Bryce Young, out of Alabama, another Bama boy, Crimson Tide, is looking like the number one prospect in the quarterback class. I mean, the kid's phenomenal, Ricardo. Just this past season, he threw for 32 touchdowns, 3,328 yards. He was 21st in the league in that case, but this is the magic number right here, Ricardo. 5 interceptions all year. 5 interceptions. The year prior, in 2021, he threw for 7 interceptions and 47 touchdowns, as well as 4,872 yards. So at this point in time, it's looking like Bryce Young is easily the number one pick. However, here's the concern for a lot of people. His size. Right? His size is bringing a lot of guys into question, or is bringing his performance in the league into question, right? Because as we've already mentioned before with the likes of Kyler Murray, Ricardo, his kind of play style is not going to work in the league, particularly when defensive linemen as well as linebackers that are 300 plus pounds are going to be running at you at pretty much the same speed, if not faster, than you can run. So
yes, absolutely.
The kid is the kid at this point in time is 6 feet tall and weighs 194 pounds, right? So slightly taller and slightly heavier than what some people are saying. But even then, hopefully he can still put on some weight. It's not really it's not that big of an ask, right, for him to put on that kind of weight to hit the weight room a little bit. But another big point too, Ricardo, is that we need to start talking about production, and that's what this kid brings. He brings the numbers to back himself up, and I think, honestly, from my perspective, we can go ahead and start counting him in as a solid contender in the NFL.
No, absolutely, Jose. And you brought up Kyler Murray and got quarterbacks that are that small, and like Russell Wilson as well. Now, they list him as 6 feet, Jose. I doubt he's 6 feet. He seems a little smaller. He seems like he might be under 6 feet. Point is, he's around 6 feet.
Sure.
If he's 5'10" or 6 feet, that's the point. Now, the reason I'm more confident in Bryce Young as opposed to Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson coming in, like if I'm one of these draft experts, what is the difference between those guys and Bryce Young? So I'll be honest, I'll say I watched pretty much ever since he started from last year. I watched almost all of Bryce Young's games playing for Alabama, because it's always the big games and you always got to see how the guy performs.
For sure.
And he is very much, Jose, a pass-first pocket quarterback, no matter his size. He's very much about passing the ball first, getting rid of it first, and not about using some dynamic speed. Have I seen him use his legs to get him out of some trouble here and then? Yes. But here's the difference. It's not a main staple and point of his game. Jose, he's lined up under center. He's lined up in shotgun.
Yep.
He's done play-action plays. He's rolled to his right, rolled to his left, throwing the ball deep, throwing the ball intermediate, short. The guy has great anticipation. I mean, you just read the stats out there, like you just told me. And he had some injuries this last year with Alabama. Nothing too much to worry about, just some nicks and bruises here, but that's part of the game, and that's part of his that's part of the reason why people aren't looking at him as the number one bona fide, no question pick, is because of his size, because he is skinny, whether he's 6'4" or if he's 5'10", he's very, very, very lanky, very short, like very, 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 very thin.
He's still also he is on the shorter end of the quarterback class, or hell, even the NFL class. But that's not any kind of trouble if you're putting up the numbers that you are and you're showing the poise that you have been showing throughout his college career. And we've seen nothing but that from Bryce Young. He has 12 interceptions throughout the entirety of his career. Now, you were mentioning, Ricardo, how balanced his offensive play is. Who just recently we seen this past season who has shown that kind of balance and that kind of poise as well? I'll give you a hint. He made the Super Bowl.
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Absolutely. Now, Jalen Hurts, of course, he is much taller and he is much bigger than Bryce Young. But the point still stands is that he's still able to have that balanced offensive play, whether it be pass first, whether it be running the ball, whether it be having the play action anticipation in the pocket. There's no question that Bryce Young definitely has that skill set, right? Regardless of what his size may be. Now, we've also seen some lanky quarterbacks in the past, one of those being Tom Brady, right? But even then, Tom Brady is still 6'2", and at his biggest, he was, I believe, 220, right? 215, 220, around there. Right. Yeah, so I think at this point in time, Bryce Young could most definitely put on 5 more pounds, right? In order to bring his weight up to a certain to a certain sturdiness, right? As far as his body goes.
Yeah.
He needs to be willing to take that. He needs to be willing to take those hits, because who knows where he'll land. And we'll get a little further into that later, where we start talking about potential landing spots for these prospects. But for right now, Ricardo, Bryce Young is as good as any, right? If not better.
Honestly, Jose, if he was 6'3", there'd be no question who's the first quarterback going off of the board for this year's draft. That's the only thing holding these draft guys back, because you see, like you said, poise, production, coolness in the pocket, not to mention, Jose, leadership moments. I've seen plenty of times where Alabama's been struggling offensively, and I don't see this guy yell at his offensive line or throw his helmet down into the field in a tantrum. Jose, I saw the national championship between Alabama versus Georgia, where he threw the pick 6 to seal the game and end it over. Did he throw his helmet down on the ground and throw a tantrum? No, he was frustrated. He put his head down and just walked over to the sideline. He has a calmness about him, Jose, where he's like, okay, he's not too high or not too low, and that's what you want with your quarterback. That's what you want with your quarterback, no matter the talent, no matter how talented he is. So I agree with you, Jose. He's the best quarterback out of this draft class. The only thing holding it back is, unfortunately, his size. But there's potential and good things to come, because guy can play. Guy can play from the pocket. Guy can pass the ball. No matter what no matter what comes out of the combine, Jose, because you know it's coming. Oh, he's under 6 feet. Oh, his frame is thin. Oh, he doesn't have a tall presence. I'm like, all I know, Jose, in the toughest conference in college football, against the most elite competition and against the high pressure situation, guys perform. And that's all you can expect from him.
And even in those...
And won a Heisman Trophy, too.
Yes.
I had to bring that. He won a Heisman Trophy.
Yes, 100%. Now, we need to start... now, what's important, too, is that we should talk about the games that he has lost, right? And even those games that he has lost were against ranked teams. Like, for example, you have Tennessee, right, who was ranked number 6 this past season, right? And then LSU, who was ranked number 10, right? So you see these 2 losses here, and you still look at the score, and you go... It's still not Bryce Young's fault. Why? Because the scores were so close. Tennessee, for example, 52-49 was the final score. And then LSU, 32-31 in overtime. So he was the one that was able to keep the games close, at the very least. Keep the game close, or at the very least put his team in a position to where they could keep that game close.
Absolutely. And then the one game that he lost his first year starting was against the national champions, the back-to-back national champion Georgia Bulldogs. Oh, wow. I mean, if you have to lose to a team, and it wasn't even a blowout, it was a close game until the end where he threw the interception that got returned for a touchdown. So be it. It happens.
Right. It's like
it happens to all of them.
Exactly. It's like I had just recently rewatched, Ricardo, the Last Dance documentary about those that Chicago Bulls dynasty that's on Netflix, and a lot of these guys that were facing Michael Jordan, like Magic Johnson, for example, he said, you know what? We lost, but we lost to the greatest. That's what happened. That's what happened. The same can be said here, right? Especially for Bryce Young's opening season, for him to lose to the national champions and still have that poise and still have that confidence to continue on and put up the numbers that he has. That's just confidence right there. And that's just mental toughness. Yep. Mental toughness that Bryce Young could most definitely bring to the league if he gets put in a good position to do so.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback off that point here, Jose, to add the cherry on top, the number that we both love, Jose, in a quote-unquote down year for Bryce Young, he still threw less interceptions than the year before.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my gosh. But either way, Ricardo, Bryce Young is easily, in our eyes, at the very least, looking like the top prospect for the league. Is his size a concern? Somewhat. Right? Somewhat if he is put in a bad position. All right? Bad position being on a team where he is not going to develop properly. Right? One can be that position can be said for my guy, my team, Mac Jones. Mac Jones and the New England Patriots, particularly this past season. Now, Mac Jones hasn't been playing his best for sure, but a lot of that could be attributed to the offensive stubbornness that was Bill Belichick. Right? But we've already gone down that rabbit hole.
Gee, who could have predicted that? It's not like you're looking right at him and said that you need an offensive guy to develop a young quarterback in the NFL. But that's just me. I don't know who said that. But okay, moving on.
All right. I get the knock. All right, so Bryce Young, number one. Another fantastic prospect that has been seen performing very, very well this past season is C.J. Stroud. Right, another junior, right out of Ohio State. So that's pretty much a rival of Alabama. 2 years ago, of course, they did play a few years ago they did play in the national championship against one another. One of those quarterbacks was Justin Fields. The other one was Mac Jones. Right, hell of a game. It's usually been pretty close between the two of them. So it's no question that C.J. Stroud is starting to rise up as another potential quarterback going into this league. Now, this year, he's thrown for 3,688 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Very similar numbers to Bryce Young, right? And to top that off, too, he's bigger and he's taller. 6'3", 218 pounds, right? The year prior, he threw the same number of interceptions and only 3 more touchdowns.
Yeah. No, Jose, this is, I'm going to be honest with you right now. So my team currently holds the number 3 pick in the draft. And I'm going to be honest right here, Jose, if it was up to me, I would, and I'm Jonathan Gannon, I want to lead my team with a fresh young prospect who puts winning above anything else on my team first. I would
Absolutely.
pick this guy. The only reason I wouldn't pick Bryce Young is because Bryce Young's not going to be there. Someone's going to.
He's not, man. He's not. As much as I hate to admit it, he's not.
Yeah. The one knock against C.J. Stroud, though, Jose, and like Bryce Young, I have watched him play. Like, I'm a big college football guy, so like I like to watch the big games with the big schools. I'm not going to pretend that I watch every single player that there is because I don't. But the big school with the big names, I like to pay close attention to. The one problem with him is that he does start slow some games. Like he can get very inconsistent with some games. Like there's one game against Purdue that start off the season, and it gets very, very like up and down, like with his when he rises up to the performance. Now, to give him credit though, in the semifinal that he had against Georgia, he performed. He performed from that game.
42-41 was that final score. Yeah.
He was not the reason they lost that game.
No.
If the kicker wouldn't have had the worst shank and timed it with the new year for that game, there's a good chance that Ohio State is the national champions for this year.
And Ricardo, remember, during that game, he was sacked a lot. He was sacked 4 times throughout that game against that elite defensive line. Elite. Still to this past year. So the fact that he was sacked 4 times and he was still able to even it out with 4 touchdown passes and 0 picks, beast numbers.
Those are numbers that we love. No turnovers. Don't put your team in a bad position. And the best part about that game, Jose, it felt like a coming out party for him because like his whole thing, he's a statue in the pocket most of the time, Jose. He's very much just stay in the pocket, get rid of the ball, or throw it. That game, he was moving his legs around. He was going up that elite pass rush that Georgia had, and he was able to move up the pocket, slide up in the pocket, out of the pocket, get some throws over. I believe he scored a touchdown with that as well. He was running to his right. He was able to give his receiver a chance in the end zone. Mm-hmm. So, guy has potential, has all the potential in the world, and he has shown some things. But the problem is that his play is what's going to scare most draft people off because, Jose, he has the prototypical NFL body, 6'3", 220, in the pocket.
He's got...
has a big arm. Yeah.
He's got exactly. He's got the arm strength, too. So it's something that a lot of guys are going to be looking at and saying, well, this is the guy because he has the tangibles. He has the tangibles, right?
Yes. And I honestly think he might be he's not getting as much hype as he should, but I think he should, Jose, because I think he's right behind Bryce Young. And we're going to talk about the 2 quarterbacks for whatever reason are getting more draft hype than the 2 best quarterbacks in this class. But I got to say, Jose, I have faith in the guy because you're not a fluke when you throw back-to-back picks for 40 touchdowns. And so I want to know your opinion on C.J. Stroud, Jose. Give me some thoughts here.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud, just based off of I didn't watch him in play as much as you do. You know that I'm not much of a college football guy. You're much more of that than I am. But as far as his play goes, as far as his numbers go, just based off of what I'm seeing here, it looks like he's definitely a kid that's going to stand up for a pretty semi-decent team that has been since last year, right? And for this Georgia game, again, based off of the numbers that I'm seeing here, it's phenomenal. The kid had phenomenal play. So I think for C.J. Stroud, he like you said, he has the ideal NFL body, but we'll see what he ends up doing with that kind of talent that comes with that kind of NFL body, because we've seen quarterbacks that have decided to use their strengths as strengths, right? So when I say strengths, I mean their height, their weight. We saw Josh Allen do it for the past few years, right? He has used that to his benefit, right? Jalen Hurts as well. He has used that to his benefit, as well as Big Ben Roethlisberger, right? But the problem is that it doesn't mean whatever that height is, whatever that weight is, it doesn't mean that that's going to contribute to production in the league, right? So as soon as CJ Stroud, right? So as soon as CJ Stroud is starting to bring himself into the league, he's going to have to not rely so much on his tangibles, but rather his football IQ that he's going to be bringing.
Yeah, no, definitely, Jose. I 100% agree with what you're saying. Most people don't understand that it's about knowing what the game is and knowing how you're supposed to try to win the game. You could honestly make the argument that that's one of the more important qualities for a quarterback other than the talent. Because at that point, everybody has talent, Jose.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you're Patrick Mahomes, whether you're Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, the difference that changes between those guys is how smart are they with their football IQ, like you said, and how they're able to just win games and play situational awareness football. Your team, Jose, the New England Patriots, their whole mantra is about situational football, and that's a lot on football IQ. So I 100% agree with you, Jose. It's just going to come down to a matter of fact, can this guy pick up the game or not? And is he going to be more consistent with his play? That's what concerns me, is his inconsistency with lower competition to where he has this bright moments against Georgia. we're like, yeah, that's what you want, but you don't get that. We didn't get that guy all his career at Ohio State. So that's going to be a big question for him. And I agree with you 100%.
Most definitely. So, and like I was saying before, Ricardo, we've seen some bigger quarterbacks who have used that strength to their benefit, such as Josh Allen. We forget how tall he is, and we forget how big he is, as well as Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And Big Ben Roethlisberger, right? They've used their physical talents, but at the same time, they understand the game, right? Now, some more so than others, right? Like, for example, Jalen Hurts plays much better situational football than what Josh Allen does, right? A lot of that could be attributed to the offensive play calling and the coach's decisions that are made. However, the quarterback at the end of the day is the one that is on the field, right? He is the field agent. He is the field manager, all right? So he is the one that's going to be sitting there for the offense and start assessing what exactly is happening in front of him and make a decision based off of that, right? Because the coaches are the ones that make the big picture decisions, whereas the quarterback is the one that is on the field, that is reading the defenses, if he is doing his job properly, and he is the one that's going to have to make those split-second decisions and explain to his manager, in this case the head coach, and say, hey, you know what? I didn't see anybody open, so I just took the open lane to run it. I took the open lane to pass it to my check down, what have you, right? So the quarterback in that sense needs to be the leader. And I think C.J. Stroud, with his inconsistency, if those inconsistencies continue on into the league, he's going to have a bit harder of a time than what Bryce Young would.
Absolutely. And to kind of just add like the final piece to your topic, Jose, to what you said, this all comes down to is where he gets drafted. Like all these guys, it depends which team takes them. What situation is there in front of you? So like we talked about last season, Jose, imagine if Justin Fields was in the New York Jets situation as opposed to the Chicago Bears situation.
Oh yeah.
We got something rolling here. So it just depends on who drafts these quarterbacks, and honestly, which franchises draft the quarterbacks, because the franchises, like we talked about, is very much about the heads of the snake. Like I said, owner, GM, head coach, and then quarterback all being on the same page. So we'll see. It'll be exciting to see. But honestly, Jose, he's going under the radar here, and honestly, I'm going to be surprised if he's available past pick 10. I think one of these teams is going to be desperate, and they're going to want to try to take on the chance for C.J. Stroud. But they may also pick one of these other two guys, and just because they see so much upside, but they have very, very low ceiling, low basements, excuse me. High ceiling, low basement.
That's right. So we'll go ahead and take a quick intermission. Do not go away. We'll be talking about the next two guys, as well as all four of these prospects' landing spots. Do not go away. All right, the next two guys that we should be talking about, Ricardo, is number one, Anthony Richardson, right? Sophomore out of Florida, right? This past season, he finished with 2,500 yards, just over 2,500 yards, 17 touchdowns, 9 picks. And this past in 2021, he had significantly less picks for 5, and he had significantly less touchdowns for 6. Right, Ricardo, I know you have a lot more to say about Anthony Richardson than I do, considering the fact that I have not seen a whole lot of his play. But judging solely off of the numbers that he's putting up now, as well as his status right now, he is out. Right, I believe did he suffer an injury?
The year before, he did suffer an injury. And it does have a lot to do with the way he plays. And I'll get into that in just a second. But yeah, he has gotten some injuries here and there.
For sure. Yeah, and excuse me. And this past season, the record for Florida was pretty a little underwhelming too. They did lose to the bigger schools like Tennessee. Like Tennessee and LSU and Georgia. Well, Georgia, it's expected. I mean, they're number one team in college football, so that is. But they also lost to Florida State, who's ranked 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty rough, right? And especially throughout that game, he had an abysmal game. 9 of 27, 33.3% completion percentage, 3 TDs and 1 pick. So not the best look. Not the best look for Anthony Richardson. But at this point in time, he is young, right? He is a sophomore. But again, he's still a prospect. So what do you think of this, Ricardo?
Well, let me put it this way, Jose. But I'm going to give credit to Anthony Richardson first, though. Gee, what kind of quarterback back in the day played for Florida with the number 15 on his jersey and as a dual threat quarterback and had a 50% completion percentage? I wonder who that was.
Mr. Tebow.
Yes. To people at home who don't know who that was Tim Tebow. It played for Florida and played very similar style. I'll get right into it, Jose. This guy's very much boomer bust. Very much boomer bust. And the reason he has so much upside is because of his physical talent alone. Guy's 6'4", 236 pounds, and can really run the rock, Jose. He's really, really quick. When he gets a chance to go, he can really run and show his athleticism to go along with it. So every year there's a boom or bust guy that they try to make to seem like it's more boom than bust, and it has much more potential and can very much be a good starter and could be the next big thing in the NFL. And before I go further, I have no problems with Anthony Richardson. He's a good team leader. He tries his best to win games, humble guy, but he's not going to make it to the next level, Jose. I'm saying it right now. He's not going to make it to the next level because this was in college with not the elite athletes and defenses, Jose. And you just mentioned it. He lost every big game to every big name school all of last season. Jose, I'll tell you this. The only reason his name got on the map is because they had an unexpected, I believe it was either week 1 or week 2 opening game. It was either the opening game or week 2 against Utah. And Utah was ranked number 5 in the nation.
Yep.
They were ranked to be good contenders to be in the playoffs. And he did that play, I'm not sure if you saw it, Jose, where he's rolling to his right, pretends to pump fakes, gets a defender up in the air, spin moves to his right, and is able to find an open guy for a 2-point conversion. I mean, that play was a highlight play for the next 2 weeks, Jose. It was incredible to watch. So a lot of talent.
So it seems like Anthony Richardson in this case is tantamount to Odell Beckham Jr. with the one-handed catch. As soon as he performed that, everybody in the league just freaked out and said, "Oh, he's one of the best wide receivers in the league." Really?
Yeah.
Off of one play? Hell, then in that case, I mean the ASU men's basketball team is top tier, top 10 in the nation because of that one half court shot that they made, buzzer beater shot that they made this past week.
It was still so sweet that it was against U of A, by the way, mind you. But anyway,
that's right. That's right. Yeah, but my point still stands is that he makes one big play and then everybody makes a big fuss.
Yeah. No, and I saw Jose and I was like, oh, that's very interesting. I hadn't heard big things about him. But he just, I say CJ Stroud's inconsistent in big games performances. What do I say? What do I say about this guy? I mean, my goodness, it's very, very, very abysmal play at the quarterback position. And again, another guy, Jose. What do we talk about? Big, tall guy. And what else does he have?
Strong arm. Strong arm, baby.
Strong arm.
Oh, yeah.
Strong arm, baby. And chuck it 80 yards deep if you wanted to. Woo! That's all that matters in the NFL is that arm strength.
Incredible. Yeah. Sheesh.
Can't make an open check down to save their life. But I can throw it 40 yards in the air.
Hey,
looks pretty.
Ricardo, don't you know that's how Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl this past season on arm strength alone?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Bullet pass after bullet pass. Downs. That's right.
Yeah.
But anyway, Ricardo, it's just, you have a quarterback here that can win games when it's against mediocre talent. like USF,
Yes.
like Texas A&M, and hell, even Vanderbilt. You know what I mean? But even then, even against Vanderbilt, they lost. And he had 3 touchdowns for a single interception, right? The kid threw for 400 yards. Great, amazing. But what's going on? It's like, it seems like these games that he should be winning, even the games that he does win, he still throws for under 60%. Like the game against USF, he threw 55.6 and they won that game. And not even by that much. 31-28 was the final.
Jose, and it's just, what year are we in? This is 2023, man. This is a passing league through and through high school, college, NFL, all about it. It's all about getting like high percentage and getting passing yards and having low interceptions. Jose, his just 53%, 53.8%. Like I don't get it. Like I don't understand. Like like I said, he's a great guy. Like no one has any problems with him at all. He's very humble. Like he's very much a team leader. But
this isn't a personality contest.
Let's not kid anyone here. Like, come on, this guy, at most he's a backup. At the very most, he's a backup, in my opinion, because he can't play. He showed that he can't play against the elite talent in college, and he's gonna do it against the NFL talent.
Please,
really?
Please.
That's how it works. He's gonna do it against the NFL talent. He hasn't shown consistency, throwing interceptions and missing passes. I mean, it's just, and I'm not trying to hate on the guy, but I have to be honest because no one's being honest about this. The guy can't make simple reads. He can't stay in the pocket and make simple reads. He can't pass it to open receivers, and he can't make those NFL-type throws that you need to make when there's a guy buried down on your face and you can barely see a smidgen open receiver, and you have to drill it in the perfect angle as you get hit and knocked to the ground. Like every NFL guy, every NFL starter, not even like NFL guy, but starter, mind you, has to make those throws every now and then. And I don't see this guy making it. And I think one team is going to make a bad decision and pick this guy early on because of all the hype, and they're going to set their franchise back a couple years. So this hype around Anthony Richardson, he's a big, tall quarterback. He's a project. And you're lucky if that project can get past. And he's very much, Jose, the best way I can describe it, he's perfect for 2000s football.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
Yards in college.
100%.
Not many, yeah, like stats are not that high, not in 60%.
Yeah.
Needs around 3 to 4 years to sit behind a proven true starter and then maybe have a chance to play in the game. That's not the league anymore. That's not the way this works anymore. You have to go in early and see if you can play.
It's not smash mouth football anymore, guys. Yeah, it just truly is not that. And Anthony Richardson, like you said, would be perfect for then, but he's not perfect for a passing league right now. All right, not even close. No. Not even close. Now, Ricardo, I think this would be a good segue to move on to our last prospect here. Another one of the top four guys. Now, before we introduce this guy, I do want to preface it with this. Mel Kiper was talking about. Mel Kiper. Mel Kiper was talking about Bryce Young and saying he was very concerned about his body, about his height, about his weight. Reasonably so. The rest of the league, the rest of the sportscasters are too, right? But I think at this point, with the exception of a few, I think at this point in time, it's fair to say that yes, Bryce Young is a little smaller, as we have already mentioned. And Mel Kiper at this point says, if Bryce Young is 195 or over, he's all in on Bryce Young. But if he ends up being 194 or lower, he says Will Levis is his guy. Will Levis is going to be his guy, right? This is also the same person that did not put Patrick Mahomes in his top 10 draft picks. Now, granted, Patrick Mahomes wasn't really hyped up going into the draft anyway, but we've seen the production that he's put up at this point in time right now, right? And granted, he didn't come out of a big name school, Texas A&M, but neither is Will Levis. Texas Tech, excuse me. But neither is Will Levis at this point. So I think, but he's getting all the attention, and he's coming out of Kentucky. But again, another big strong arm guy, 6'3", 232 pounds. He's a senior. He's the oldest guy coming into this draft, right?
Okay. These people are gonna make me do it. I'm gonna have to do it, but so be it. Okay, Jose. Every year in the NFL draft, there's this no-name guy who comes out of a no-name school and gets all this hype and praise for whatever reason possible. Nobody knows why, but the league just does it. They pick this one guy and they're like, yes, he has a chance to be a great pro, and they're like, let's see the numbers in college. They're okay, but it has a tremendous upside potential. You talk to any NFL scout, and he looks like, oh, this guy looks like he can play and he can do it, but he can't. I'm going to start off by saying this, and I'll be honest, Jose. I'll be honest. I was wrong on one guy, and we all know who that one guy is. But I'm going to go off of the list. They said the same about Mitchell Trubisky. They said the same about Josh Allen.
That's right.
They said the same. They said the same about Daniel Jones. They said the same about Zach Wilson, and now they're saying the same about Levis, right?
Yeah, Levis.
Will Levis. I was wrong on one guy, Jose.
That was
Those other four.
Josh Allen. Yep.
Yeah, that was Josh Allen. Those other four, how are they looking? I mean, Daniel Jones sees okay when there's an offense catered to him, but I see that's more of a coaching job than anything. They have to stop, Jose. They have to stop with fully NFL teams into believing that this guy can play. He's 6'3", 220. Great, fantastic, NFL body, big arm, strong guy, another guy. Jose, let me put this into perspective. I'm going on a rant here, but I have to because this is ridiculous.
This happens all the time. Mel Kiper was the one that was talking about Mitchell Trubisky being the big name in the NFL. And look at Mitchell Trubisky now. Look at him now.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine, dude. But it's just I have to say it, dude. I have to say it. He was in Penn State for his first 2 years in college. In one of his years in college, in Penn State. When's the last time we've heard of a great quarterback going to the NFL out of Penn State? He couldn't beat out the quarterbacks now. One of them, which was Trace McSorley, who was a backup in the NFL, who played who was in the Cardinals team, is going off from team to team, and had to move into Kentucky. Okay, yes.
To be honest with you, Ricardo,
yes,
I haven't even heard of Trace McSorley. If I'm being 100% honest with you, I've never even heard of the guy. So to further add to your point. Yeah.
My point exactly. You don't even know who Trace McSorley is, who played in Penn State. And Penn State what is Penn State, Jose? It's linebacker university. Linebacker U. It's not known for those offensive players. The only exception is Saquon Barkley. That's the only talent that's to come out of Penn State that's like, okay, this is an NFL guy. Jose, he went to the toughest competition in football, right? In college football, SEC. Putting up some 2007 type of college football numbers, Jose. What were his numbers in the SEC in his years in Kentucky? Go ahead.
Well, he did play against Georgia, lost 16-6, right? And he put up better numbers than Anthony Richardson, but that would be expected out of a quarterback. out of a quarterback that is a senior. Right? In that game alone, 64.5 completion percentage, 1 touchdown for 1 INT. Breaks even, right? But season stats. Let's talk about season stats right now. Once again, his numbers were better game to game than Anthony Richardson, but his season stats are very similar to Anthony Richardson as a senior. 2,400 yards, 2,406 yards to be specific, to be exact, right? 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. 10 interceptions. All right, and throughout the entirety of his career, he has thrown 23 interceptions in 2 years. He cut down on his interceptions from last year. Still double digits though. Still double digits.
Oh, God, it's just Jose. It's just exhausting. So to the people who aren't us, they're like, oh, I never thought about it that way, because you forget. It's okay, and I forget about stuff too. But I remember, Jose, and I get so freaking frustrated. And they do this every year. They pick a guy out of nowhere, and he gets drafted in the first round when he doesn't deserve to be. And it's just, this is one of the guys. He's going to be one of the guys. And I'm going to say this. I was wrong about Josh Allen. I've admitted it every time we bring a Josh Allen topic. I was wrong. I thought he was going to be a major bust. He has proved me wrong. But he's the exception to my list of quarterbacks.
He's the outlier. He's the outlier, yeah.
Yes, the outlier. My goodness. My goodness, man.
What else is there to say about Will Levis, Ricardo, as well as Anthony Richardson, right? So it was important for us to talk about the top 4 quarterback prospects in the league going into it. Okay? Because last year's quarterback prospects, I mean, we've already given our 5, 10, 20 cents on those guys, right? When they were first going into the league. By the way, Ricardo, Kenny Pickett, how did he look this past year?
Who?
Exactly.
He looked as though we thought he was gonna look.
Yeah, exactly. And he was the number 1 going into. He was the number 1, right? And then, oh my gosh, I was watching a segment from First Take from last year, right?
Yep.
And they were talking about Bryce Young and saying, oh, he looks like one of the top prospects going into 2023. Oh, but Matt Corral, man. Matt Corral. Oh my gosh, like he's just he's looking phenomenal. I think he's really going to make a stamp in this season. Who?
Add him to the list. Add him to the list of quarterbacks. I talk about that. Yeah,
exactly. I ask again.
Go ahead.
Who? That kid would have been better as a running back, mind you, because he rushed out of the pocket. He broke out of the pocket more times than he passed the damn ball, as far as I'm concerned. So. Mm-hmm. Moral of the story, Ricardo, is that yes, every single year they pick this guy as if he's the underdog, right? As if he's going to be the underdog, and it's like they want to catch him early. But that's not the case. There's been one time within the past few years that's happened, and that's Josh Allen. But all of these other guys, nothing. What is there to be said about those guys? Where are they now? Oh, okay. Probably number 1, the number 1 person that has gone into the league that has been said to have had this big body, this strong arm, just recently, Ricardo, Jamarcus Russell. And what happened to Jamarcus Russell?
Gained about 80, 100 pounds and was out of the league in 5 years.
Yeah, he was asked to review this tape called Blitzes. You know, he was pretty much force-fed his homework, right? And even then, he wouldn't take it. Who also sounds that way right now? Kyler Murray.
Yep.
He needs to be forced to do his damn job. He needs to be forced to earn his millions of dollars. But I digress. Will Levis is not going to be that guy. Anthony Richardson is not going to be that guy for two similar but very different reasons. Anthony Richardson's young, and he is very inconsistent. And he's an amplified version of what C.J. Stroud is right now as far as his inconsistencies go. And number 2, Will Levis. He's being hyped up by his strength, by his body. He has the NFL body, right? As compared to Bryce Young. But what kind of production is he putting up? Go ahead.
You know who else had an NFL body and was very hyped up and who also played in Kentucky? Paxton Lynch. The only quarterback in history to get benched in the NFL, in the USFL, in the Canadian Football League, in the XFL, and all the FLs. He's the only quarterback to get benched in all of them. And he has a great NFL body. That's what we love.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
not
yeah.
Talent or play.
Then in that case, to quote Shannon Sharp, you might as well be a sumo wrestler. Yeah. Be a sumo wrestler. Shit. Yeah, excuse my language. My goodness. But anyway, we've spent quite a bit of time talking about these 2 guys that are looking like busts, as well as the 2 that are looking to be top prospects in the league. So let's go ahead and move on. If you don't have anything else to say, Ricardo, I think we're ready to go ahead.
Yeah, we'll move on to which teams will most likely these guys will end up with. But one last thing to say, which is a tragedy. Well, not a tragedy, but it's upsetting because he got injured. I would take the quarterback out of Tennessee, Hendon Hooker, over both of those guys, Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, because he's shown more consistency in the pocket. But I digress. Moving on.
For sure. These are the top 4 guys in the news right now, so we thought we would break them down a little bit. Now, let's start talking about potential landing spots right after this little intermission. Do not go away, everyone. All right, Ricardo, I think it would be necessary to bring this point up exactly, right? So,
Yes.
because this is going to be something that's worth talking about as far as these quarterbacks being drafted into the correct teams is concerned, right? So let's say this. Offensive line, right? Of course, for a young quarterback, it is essential that you have an offensive line that is going to protect them, all right? So let's talk about this. Based off of Pro Football Focus, all right, the top offensive lines from this past season were the Philadelphia Eagles at number 1, right? Number 2, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 3, the Green Bay Packers. Number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. And those are all the ones that I'm seeing here. Now, are any one of these teams looking for a new quarterback?
The exception might be Baltimore, Jose, because they're refusing to sign Lamar Jackson, but that's their own stupidity at that point. But those other teams aren't looking for a quarterback.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking as well. And on top of that, too, they're not even in the top 5 for draft picks. And you know that these guys are going to be going like this. So, as far as they're concerned, let's start looking at some potential landing points for all of these quarterbacks, right? Now, number 1, Bryce Young. He's looking like a top contender for the Houston Texans. So So Davis Mills has been solid for Houston starting off in his career, but this past season, there's still left a lot to be desired in the scoring department. Ricardo, their record most definitely reflects that. Now, is it just Davis Mills that needs rebuilding around that? Probably not. But people are starting to look at that quarterback position. Another landing spot for Bryce Young has been the Chicago Bears. Now, for me, Ricardo, I think that's a nightmare. That's a train wreck waiting to happen. Because I think they're doing a pretty solid job with Justin Fields. I loved watching him this past season, but he got sacked. Oh my gosh, he got sacked 55 times. 55 times. That's terrible. That is an awful position to put your young quarterback in. What do you think, Ricardo?
Well, if Chicago's smart and they're not stupid and they don't try to draft another quarterback before fixing the team first, the only scenario in which the Houston Texans, don't take Bryce Young is if a team trades up with Chicago to get that number 1 spot. And most of the people that are predicting this is predicting that Indianapolis is going to try to move up to try to jump everyone and try to get Bryce Young before anyone's available. I mean, Seattle, I don't see them doing that. They're pretty solid at 5, and they don't want to. I don't see them forcing anything. I'd say they will kind of wait back a bit. And Carolina, it's not in their DNA to make a big trade move. Atlanta needs a quarterback, but they're not. I don't see them having the resources to try to move up and get them. So It's definitely going to be Houston, it's either going to be Houston or Indianapolis for sure as the top 2 spots. But unless some wild card Jose comes out of nowhere and gives Chicago a ridiculous profits trade as far as to develop their team for the next 3 to 4 years, then it's going to be the Houston Texans. And I would say this: they're showing some potential in their defense here and there, but like you said, the offense leaves a lot to be desired. So once Bryce Young gets drafted with Houston Texans, their next goal should be to shore up that offensive line. They got some decent running backs. Oh, let's say that. They got some decent running backs, but they got to start from inside out. They got to build that offensive line and then focus on weapons. But most guys try to get the quarterback weapons immediate. Let's try to get him. I mean, even for goodness sake, even Cincinnati got the weapon at Jamar Chase, and they still couldn't do it, and they made it to the Super Bowl. That's the best case scenario of that happening. So I would say Houston takes Bryce Young, and if Chicago does this, and it's a very Chicago-like thing to do, oh boy, it's going to be a nightmare for the executive and the GM, and hopefully they trade him to Justin Fields to Arizona, but mind you, never mind.
Well, yes, but personally, especially with the direction that the Arizona Cardinals are headed, Ricardo, it seems like they're just working to make Kyler Murray happy. And Honestly,
unfortunately,
honestly, they should just cut him right down. In our opinion, they should just cut him right away. They should have cut him a long time ago. Because we've already seen. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Because we've already seen where he is at.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, and if it was up to me, like I said, I would cut him now or trade him, whoever wants him, to get some compensation back for him, and I would get C.J. Stroud at number 3. That would be my choice.
For sure.
But that's not where we're. Yeah, that's not where. Speaking of C.J. Stroud, let's talk about some potential landing spots for him.
Go right ahead.
So, if Indianapolis. This all depends. I honestly think it all depends on what happens at number 1.
Yep.
Because if the Bears stay at number 1, then things are going to go numerically, like it's becoming more clear. If the Bears stay at number 1 and they pick something to help out their team, mind you, Will Anderson from Alabama, great defensive player, some offensive linemen available as well. But it's going to go down. Houston takes Bryce Young at number 2. Arizona, if for the love of God, they didn't pick anything other than an outside linebacker. They're not going to pick a quarterback right now this year. My goodness. It's looking like Indianapolis would be the top spot for C.J. Stroud.
I think so,
too. Indianapolis is desperate. They need a quarterback. They need a big name. And I don't see them mortgaging the future to try to get Bryce Young right there. But if C.J. Stroud shows like enough to prove to them that he's a quarterback and he has a future, I can see them drafting him and making it stuff easier. Because, Jose, let's look at it this way. What does Indianapolis love doing as a team? Running the football.
Yep.
And what's a young quarterback's best friend? Running the football. So they're going to run the football with Jonathan Taylor and try to help out C.J. Stroud to become that next guy. However, if Indianapolis trades up and gets Bryce Young, then the next spot for me that he would go down to, it would have to be the Las Vegas Raiders. I
was thinking that as well because the Seattle Seahawks quarterback situation is still kind of up in the air right now. Geno Smith had a great comeback year this past year, but we don't know if they're going to be able to keep him, right? Mm-hmm. So in that case, we don't see Jared Goff leaving the Detroit Lions. We don't see him leaving either, especially with the season that they had.
Yeah. I don't see Detroit cutting him off after his best season with the team so far. So go ahead, dude. I agree with
for sure. Yeah. So that's pretty much where I'm standing right now. Is the Arizona Cardinals are not going to be picking up a quarterback. The Indianapolis Colts are getting C.J. Stroud. If not C.J. Stroud, then Bryce Young if they decide to trade up, right? But the Houston Texans have the second pick, right? If they're able to trade up with Chicago, then they're going to be able to pick up Bryce Young. So if C.J. Stroud does not get picked up by the Indianapolis Colts, Ricardo, I'm gonna have to give it to you as well. I think I would put him in a Vegas Raiders uniform, for sure. Especially with the turmoil that they've had at the quarterback position. But at the same time, Ricardo, the Vegas Raiders, my goodness, I mean, there's a whole lot more that's wrong with them on the defensive side of the ball that we can just go on for days about. However, we're not talking about that right now. I'm going to be digressing if I do. C.J. Stroud would look pretty solid in a Vegas Raiders uniform, especially with the addition of Devontae Adams at the wide receiver position. As overrated as he has been, he's still a solid receiver. He is still one of the top receivers in the NFL, right? Even with Derek Carr at the quarterback position.
No, definitely. And if the Raiders do take a quarterback, it's going to be very, very easy early on having a talent like that to throw the football to. But anyways, let's see how these next two quarterbacks potential landing spot is going to be.
All right, so let's move on really quickly to Will Levis. All right. Excuse me. So Will Levis is looking to be picked up by the Carolina Panthers. Right, and based off of this that I'm reading right now, man, they did him dirty. It says if Levis doesn't make it to Carolina, the ideal team fit in this situation likely would be the Carolina Panthers. Not necessarily because Levis's skill set matches what the Panthers like to do, but rather because the Panthers are in such desperate need for an answer at the quarterback position. This is as of a 33rd team, right? That's the name of the website that I'm getting this from. So that's looking like a likely landing spot for Will Levis, and I concur, honestly, because as we've said, Ricardo, the Vegas Raiders are going to probably pick up C.J. Stroud. The Detroit Lions are not looking for another quarterback. The Seattle Seahawks quarterback position is kind of up in the air right now, but I don't really see them just letting go of Geno Smith, especially after the season that he had. And the Atlanta Falcons aren't really looking for a quarterback either. So that's number 9, the Carolina Panthers.
Here's the thing. I can see either one of these guys being picked up by Carolina. I can honestly see either one of these guys, either Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, being picked up, and they're going to be, Jose, you mark my words. If the draft goes the way we predict, these two guys are going to get picked by either one of these two teams. No other ones. It's either going to be to the Carolina Panthers or to the Washington Commanders.
Yep.
Because Carolina is desperate at the quarterback position. They want a big flash and big name. Washington, it's just what they do, Jose. It's just what they do. They just pick up guys out of nowhere, and they just draft a quarterback and just do it out of nowhere. Because, okay, let's say you're right, and the Panthers pick up Will Levis at number 9. You got the Eagles at 10, who got him from a draft pick. They're not going to pick a quarterback like without any decision. Tennessee Titans is still waiting to see how what's his name? I forgot already. From last year's draft is starting to look up for them. Houston Texans have already drafted a quarterback at this position in the point, or they get rid of that draft class. New York Jets are going to try to sign a free agent quarterback. They're going to try to get either Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers, depending on how this thing turns out. New England Patriots, please, next question. Green Bay Packers, if they get rid of Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be Jordan Love first, and then they'll see how it's looking. So the 100%. Next possible team would be Washington at 16. So that's how I see it going, Jose, as far as for this quarterback draft class. Either one of these two teams could get picked up either one of these two teams are going to pick up one of these guys, but it's going to be these two teams. No other team is going to do that, in my opinion.
Now, let me ask you this, Ricardo, and this is just something that I'm entertaining. It doesn't seem like something that's likely, but I want to get your input on this. What do you think of, considering that this team is also in a similar position, what do you think of the Steelers trading up for one of these other guys, for Anthony Richardson or Will Levis?
My thing is that yes, Kenny Pickett didn't have a good season by our standards, but I just, it's not in their DNA, Jose, as a franchise. They already traded up to get Kenny Pickett last year.
Right.
Like, I don't think they're going to admit they made a mistake so early on. Now, mind you, Jose, had this been like the third year that we saw Kenny Pickett play and he still looked the same? Absolutely. Like, I can see them try to make a move and, like, get a quarterback.
Yep.
But I just don't see it. I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong, and they could draft up, but I personally don't see it.
Especially since they also had a winning record this past season. Rather, given that it's a low winning
above
record,
500.
But exactly, it's still a winning record on their part. So I concur with you. I just wanted to get your input on that. So it's looking like Anthony Richardson or Will Levis could most definitely get picked up by the Carolina Panthers, because you know that those top two guys, C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, are going to get picked up very, very early on. You know that.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of by who, the Houston or Indianapolis.
Yep. Or if exactly. Or if some contender comes out of nowhere and trades up to number 1, whether it might be Carolina or Washington.
Sure.
Then it'll be one of them. But unless something different happens, then that's the way we both see it.
Most definitely. Now, okay, the board is set here, right? We have our prospects, and we have our prospects, and now we have the potential landing spots for these guys. Can things change dramatically? Most definitely. Last year we thought that Aiden Hutchinson was going to be the number 1 pick, but it didn't end up being him. But he was still picked up early on, though, number 2, right? Yep. And he had a stellar season with Detroit, no question about that, right? He's shown himself to be a contender in the league. As far as Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are concerned, these guys are easily the top picks, and we can only hope, Ricardo, and these are my closing thoughts, we can only hope that they are picked up by the correct team. And when I say the correct team, I mean put in a good situation for being young quarterbacks.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. And my close on it, it's going to be these two guys, and it's going to be Will Anderson at the top three. Like, no, like at the top, as far as top picks in this draft class, because Jalen Carter out of Georgia was going to be the top pick, but he recently had some off the field issues, like breaking news about like.
Yep.
I'm not going to get into too much detail, but you know what I'm talking about.
I heard about
he recently had some off the field trouble, so he's definitely going to slide down on the board. So it's going to be these top two quarterbacks and Will Anderson Jr. out of Alabama as the top three picks coming out of this league. So coming out of college, so it's going to be very interesting to see. And I'm for one and excited, and I kind of wish the draft was coming sooner, but we have to wait. It's the off season. That's what we got to do, and we will do it patiently.
Either way, the two of us at RJ Talks will continue to cover these bigger stories that are going to be leading up to these big business decisions that each one of these teams is going to make, right? But as far as this episode goes, thank you guys so much for listening. This is pretty much the end of it. If you like what you hear, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel that we have here and follow our Instagram at RJTalks_11 for updates on all of our uploads. Thank you. Have a good night and stay safe out there.
Later, guys.